The Buss family has sold their shares of the Lakers and are out, except Jeanie says not so fast. ESPN reports that the NBA's investigation of the Clippers and Kawhi Leonard has reportedly reached a new stage that will leave many fans skeptical, except the league says not so fast. A lot of LA-based hoops drama to break down for Tuesday's Locked On NBA Game Night.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thanks for checking out Locked On NBA Game Night. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, and hope you are making one of our shows your first listen every day. Perhaps it's Locked On Lakers, co-hosted by me, Andy Kamenetzky, or perhaps Locked On Bucks, co-hosted by the great Camille Davis. But whichever shows you are making your first, second listens and beyond, thank you. Make sure you are subscribing on YouTube and wherever you get your audio so you never miss a show. So we're going to get into news about the Clippers investigation before the show ends. But in the real world, Camille, the Lakers always take precedent over the Clippers. Boom! Take that, Darian Vaziri from Locked On Clippers. I love Darian. Everyone relax. Anyway, we are going to start the show, though, with the Lakers. And I advise our listeners and our viewers to buckle in because a setup is required. Lakers ownership has been at the center of a conversation last week with the shocking sale of the team to new majority owners Bob Iger, Josh Kushner. This deal came together in a hurry as news broke in July by Bloomberg about the previous face of ownership, Mark Walter, being under federal investigation for tax fraud, as two insurers controlled by Mark Walter did not disclose that their private crediting holdings backed up other Walter-controlled ventures. The SEC is running a parallel investigation, according to Bloomberg. A simple way of describing this I've seen is Walter is accused of using one pocket of the financial empire he has to finance another pocket while failing to disclose both pockets were effectively controlled by him. And I find it very difficult to believe that the investigation and the sale are unrelated. So enter Iger and Kushner swooping in. Widely expected the sale will be approved, $12.5 billion. For the time being, the Buss family was expected to remain on as minority owners, but at the same time, this was not the original sale that they agreed to, and there had been no connection to Mark Walter, who had made Jeanie Buss, who had been a minority owner of the Lakers before becoming majority. And other than Jeanie, no Buss had a role with the team because frankly, Jeanie had ousted them all. So it's not surprising that the other siblings would reportedly be in favor of selling. They put out a statement. We have decided, ESPN broke the news, by the way. They put out a statement. We have decided as a family to sell the remaining Buss family trust shares to the Bob Iger Group as part of the ongoing transaction. We love the Lakers, Laker fans, and will continue to support Los Angeles. But it is time to use that opportunity to move on and exit gracefully while we still can. More on that last part later. Mm-hmm. Then after, though, that news broke that the Busses were out, CNBC obtained a letter from Jeanie Buss's counsel. From the article, quote, lawyer Adam Streisand says Jeanie Buss has not agreed to sell the team and that any vote suggesting the Buss family is selling would be and is void. From the article, Streisand argues in the letter that Jeanie Buss remains the controlling shareholder of the Lakers pursuant to a 2017 court order, and that no sale can take place without her consent. No sale of the JAB Trust's 17.8% ownership interest in the Los Angeles Lakers Incorporated can be effectuated without approval by the current co-trustees, i.e. Jeanie, Janie, and Joey Buss, pursuant to the JAB Trust and the attached court order. The co-trustees are bound to vote the Los Angeles Lakers Incorporated shares to ensure that the minimum 15% ownership requirement is maintained in order to ensure Jeanie Buss may remain controlling owner. Any attempt by the trustees to do otherwise and any attempt to aid or abet co-trustees as such would constitute a breach of trust, breach of fiduciary duty, and be in contempt of court. The article also notes, per a source, that Jeanie wants to hold on to a team stake for value reasons as well as to maintain her role as governor. A messy drama. As somebody who's covered the Lakers for 20 years, it both feels like even extra by their standards and also just a Tuesday. Camille, I'm going to stop talking. What's your reaction to all of this? Start anywhere you want.
There is just so many different things within this, to the point where where I actually want to start is just let me make sure I'm understanding this correctly. So
I can't promise you that I'll know for sure if you are.
We're all trying to figure this out.
Continue.
So back in 2017, when they had the first kind of court battles and whatnot, when was it Jim and Johnny tried to stage a coup against Jeanie, and then she fired Jim, sued the family, and then got a court order. And in that court order, it made Jeanie, and Joey controlling owners after that, and no one can sell the team without the approval of all three of them. And then with that, Jeanie was the governor. She was the one who kind of continued to have that.
Yeah.
When the team was sold initially, not even 2 years ago at this point,
14 months,
not even a year and a half. When that sale happened, the Buss family had an agreement to make sure they had enough of a percentage that Jeanie could remain governor of the team.
Yes.
All right. And then now Walter is agreeing to sell the team for about a $2.5 billion profit from what he was able to, get when he brought the team. And with that sale, the other 5 siblings said, hey, let's get in here at this moment too, because there's a tag along provision on this saying that if the team is sold, if Walter sells the team, that the Buss family can kind of leech onto that, sell the team as well within that. So that's why they said we're going to sell the team now. But Jeanie is saying, I never said anything about that. And because of that initial court ruling back in 2017, all of this is void. That's where we're at, right?
It's where it seems that we're at, Camille. Yeah, it very much seems like the other 5 Buss siblings, who I think, and I'm sure we'll talk about this, it would appear they bear degrees of animosity towards Jeanie because she has essentially forced all 5 of them out at various times in terms of having roles within the organization. They all still maintain shares. They were all still co-minority owner of the Lakers.
Right.
But Joey Buss, for example, used to run the G League team. Jesse Buss used to be head of scouting. Jim Buss back in the day with Mitch Kupchak ran basketball ops, and then eventually was fired by Jeanie, who was running business ops, and then eventually became the ultimate shot caller. And then fast forward several years, we get to the Mark Walter era, RIP, to now the Iger Kushner era, however that's going to go moving forward.
Okay, so where I want to start, maybe we get to this after the break here, but the line that really stood out to me with the siblings wanting to kind of leech onto this sale and get it off was, while we can, we want to take this opportunity to move on and exit gracefully while we can. I feel like there's a lot in that statement, and I would love to get your opinion on exactly what that could mean, why they actually included that publicly in that statement as well, because that feels like something they could have kind of kept a little bit closer to the vest, in my opinion.
Well, it feels like something that could be kept close to the vest unless they figured that Jeanie would fight this, that she would resist this, and that she would turn this into a public battle, in which case they are saying, look, this is our opportunity to bow out of the organization gracefully, or I guess maybe a less politically correct way of putting it, less embarrassingly. And this is how they have already, Joey and Jesse in particular, have made statements to the effect of wondering how their father would feel about all this. This is when Mark Walter, that sale was, the news of it was first broken before it was even fully approved by the league.
And that's the 2 youngest brothers, right?
Yeah. And it's an interesting family dynamic. They're considerably younger than Jeanie. They share a father, but different mother. It was a different wife of Jerry Buss's later in life. And, they were very close to their father, but it was, and, they had roles within the organization. And my purview of it was that they took those roles seriously, worked pretty hard at him. I got to know Joey Buss a little bit while he was with the organization, and I was always pretty impressed by him. But they also too, and they've said that Dr. Buss had told them that it was his vision to one day they would guess, run or co-run the team, similar to what he told his vision was for Jeanie to eventually take over. And I think if you ask Jim would say some version of the same as well. But there has been varying degrees of interest in terms of how much a particular Buss sibling has wanted a role within the organization. But it was very clear when Jeanie fired Joey and Jesse, and even Jeanie Buss, they were displeased by this. And I think they did not see it coming. And in particular, I think they felt like Jeanie was not transparent with them in terms of the process of the sale to Mark Walter.
Okay. A lot to unpack there. A lot to unpack. And I didn't even get to my questions that I have about how this might affect the basketball operation side of this, because isn't Rob Pelinka, like, isn't it kind of rumored that part of his job security comes with Jeanie being in place here? So how could this affect that? Like, I have so many questions.
Let's do them next.
All right. Support for today's episode comes from Wayfair. So whether you're refreshing one room or getting ready for a new season or finally replacing that piece of furniture that you've just been putting off, Wayfair makes it so easy to find something that fits your home, your style, and your budget. You can shop furniture and decor across a wide range of price points with quality materials and pieces designed to stand up to real life. And with Wayfair Verified, product specialists hand vet select products through a 10-point inspection, looking at things like materials, functionality, features, and even how long they take to build. So if you're still trying to narrow down what to buy, Wayfair actually gives you plenty of real shopper feedback to work with. You can browse more than 20 million verified 5-star reviews along with real customer photos and feedback to help you shop with more confidence. I recently had to grab some like hanging rails for my balcony, and it took me a long time to go through all the reviews, but I finally found something that worked. And trust me when I tell you, my plants are just as happy about that as I am. So join Wayfair Rewards today and get 5% back on every purchase and start saving on your next home upgrade. Head to wayfair.com to shop all things home. That's WAYFAR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home.
And we are back to break down even more of this Lakers/Buss family drama before we get into the Ballmer, Kawhi, Clippers NBA drama. Again, a lot going on in LA on a Tuesday. But one of the things you wanted to talk about, Camille, or ask about was where Rob Pelinka fits into this and some of the basketball pieces of this.
Yeah. So a lot of times when you're thinking about ownership sales, you're just thinking of like the dollar amount. You're just like, wow, okay, that is what it is. Now, I know when Walter came aboard, like part of it was like, hey, the Dodgerification of the Lakers and being able to pump all these things in. So the basketball side was talked about in that state. Like, I think if the sale goes through that Walter is trying to get off, you're still going to have an influx of money coming in, given who the parties are that are looking to purchase the team. But on the basketball side of things, during an offseason that's already had a lot of change on the roster, Rob Pelinka has been one of the consistents there for him. And I think it was reported by ESPN. I don't want to false give it, but it was a report just coming out saying that, you know, Pelinka had a lot of support from Buss and that there was an agent. It was ESPN. An agent spoke to ESPN and said, as long as Jeanie's in good position, I think Rob is in good position. So at this point, which I don't even know which way this goes. It feels like this is going to get tied up in litigation for some time before this gets sorted out. But how much do you think this will actually impact Rob Pelinka and then just the basketball side of things and putting together the team and trying to make sure that they're able to compete in a Western Conference that's very, very top heavy?
I think as far as Rob Pelinka's job security goes, this is not helpful. I've never quite bought into the idea that post Mark Walter sale, much less where we are now, that as long as Jeanie was around, Rob would have some degree of security, just because Jeanie may have been the governor of the team, but she's not the ultimate shot caller. The ultimate shot caller was either going to be Mark Walter or Josh Kushner and Bob Iger. So while she may have some degree of influence or her opinion would be heard, if either Walter or Kushner or Iger are dissatisfied with Rob Pelinka's job, Rob's gone. And I don't think Jeanie really has any say in it, because at the end of the day, she's not the ultimate shot caller anymore. It's those guys who have the most controlling shares. It's interesting though, like Rob Pelinka got an extension in April of 2025, which felt at the time like some combination of either lining up his tenure to JJ Redick's, or his contracts, I should say, with JJ Redick's, as he had just received an extension himself, or maybe just further evidence of Jeanie's relationship with Rob, which has always felt pretty bulletproof. Jeanie has always hired, in my opinion, based more on her personal comfort with the person she was bringing in and making part of her inner circle, as opposed to professional acumen. But it felt like some degree of security for Rob. Then a couple months later, the news of the sale breaks to Mark Walter. Like, it hadn't even been officially proved yet, but we learn all of a sudden, and nobody had really anticipated this, that they were going to sell the team. And then at that point, it felt to me like, well, Jeanie may have known something, or at the very least, I doubt it took less than 2 months to figure out she might want to sell. So it could have been giving Rob either some degree of job security because he'd have that extension, or maybe a golden parachute if you want to be cynical about it. The stage we're at right now, it feels potentially closer to a golden parachute. I'm not making a prediction now that Rob's going to be fired, just so it's clear. I'm just saying Rob has no connection that I'm aware of to Bob Iger and Josh Kushner. At least Mark Walter had been a minority owner of the Lakers and presumably had been paying attention to what was going on, but also had built some rapport with Pelinka. And if he was at least somewhat satisfied with what Rob had been doing, that could have been helpful. I feel like under this new regime, Rob really will need to show that the moves that he made this offseason were good ones. His next transaction cycle needs to be pretty good as well. Otherwise, I think absolutely his seat will feel pretty hot, and it should.
Yeah. And the last thing on this, I'll ask you, just because I know we have to also talk about the other team in LA, because it's just been, like you mentioned, an LA news day when it comes to the NBA. The time frame, like I mentioned, I feel like this is going to take some time. Like, even separate from this new piece of litigation that's coming out amongst the Buss family, typically it feels like ownership sales take some time, just in general. I know the Celtics one felt pretty fast, and that was like, what, 5-6 months that it took to actually get the transition from, hey, this team, they're going to be buying it, into they now own this team. So I think that part will take some time, but also when you add in this new layer of the Buss family drama that's also happening, I'm not sure if that can affect the other sale that's going on. If, you start getting like legal fee, like just lawyers getting into that and want to put injunctions out there, or whatever the case might be. I'm not a lawyer. Let me not try to do all the jargon, but how long do you think this might play out? Like, is this going to be something that's like in the background of the entire upcoming 2026-27 season, in your opinion? Could it last longer than that? Is it a chance it's shorter? Like, what do you think on the time frame that this litigation might take?
I mean, it's purely speculative on my part, just in the sense that, like you, I'm also not a lawyer, nor have I ever been financially solvent enough that I could be in the type of room where things like this happen, and I could have a real history with knowing how it works. That being said, this is, again, a bit of speculation on my part, but I have a feeling that this vetting period and this transition period before it eventually gets voted on by the league and the owners would be relatively smooth, and maybe even expedited, just because it's the Lakers, and you don't want a team like the Lakers being in flux any longer than it has to be, because it's so important to the NBA. B, Adam Silver has a pre-established relationship with Bob Iger. They had done business together for years when Iger ran Disney, which by extension meant running ABC and ESPN. So you're working out TV deals. It's my understanding that they consider themselves personal friends. And this is, again, speculation on my part, but it wouldn't shock me if it turned out that the impetus for this sale, even the sale being underway, like Mark Walter wanting to / needing to / perhaps even being told you have to sell, and Iger in particular being one of the buyers. He and Josh Kushner have been looking to buy an expansion team before this opportunity ended up in front of them. It wouldn't surprise me at all if Adam Silver greased some of those wheels. And if he's behind the wheel greasing, then I feel like this could maybe end up something tracked faster than is typically the case. But again, I don't know for sure, and I definitely don't know how much this Buss family drama could affect everything. I will say, though, I hope Jeanie does the right thing with this. And to me, the right thing would be to stand down. Like, in all honesty, her role as governor at this particular stage, like, it was one thing when she and Mark Walter had a relationship and Mark Walter seemingly wanted her to do that. At this particular stage, I don't even know what the role would be other than kind of ornamental or ego or refusing to let go or like not wanting to let her siblings, finger quotes, win. But Jeanie has always talked about wanting to do what's best for the franchise. I think sometimes it's been more in talk than an actual deed and action, particularly when it came to hiring practices. But I think she could at least convince herself that she was looking to do the right things. Battling this thing out in the hopes of just remaining team governor and inside the building, that doesn't seem like the right thing to be doing beyond the personal feuding that may be going on, or definitely is going on. I don't think that's the right thing to do for the organization. Like, to just keep it in flux like that for that ultimate end game. I don't see the upside for the Lakers.
I think that's fair. I think that's a great point to consider too, about what's actually best for the franchise, which could get lost in all of the conversation and litigation that seems forthcoming between the Buss family. So I've been seeing people saying this is like Succession, the TV show. We were talking about it a little bit before going live here. I might have to start watching Succession if this is the level of drama that I am going to be getting on that show. It's
really good. It's a great show, and you will immediately start seeing Jeanie Buss as Shiv Roy. That's I'll just say that right now. All right, let's move on to the other part of the LA drama, the Clippers and Steve Ballmer and the investigation in the NBA and what may or may not be happening, whether you ask ESPN or the league. That's coming up next.
Support for today's episode also comes from Indeed Sponsored Jobs, because when workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps connect employers with candidates who match specific needs like skills, certification, and location. So less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on Indeed right now. In the minute that I've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. And when you get the right hire in the building, the biggest difference isn't normally someone doing more work. It's having somebody who knows exactly what needs to happen and then just helping everything run smoother in the process. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Head to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Okay, Camille, we move on to the Intuit Dome and the drama happening with the Clippers and the Kawhi Leonard investigation. It's not yet wrapped, but it does appear to have perhaps reached a very important phase towards wrapping, per ESPN's Don Van Natta, Baxter Holmes, and Mia Miga. Ramona Shelburne, quote, "The NBA has found no evidence showing the LA Clippers owner Steve Ballmer funneled money through team sponsors to pay Kawhi Leonard in order to circumvent salary cap, according to three people with knowledge of discussions between the two sides in recent days. Instead, the NBA is focused on whether the team's introduction of Leonard to team sponsors constitutes a violation of the league's rules prohibiting salary cap circumvention. Two of the sources said the league is examining whether the Clippers are guilty of, quote, failure to supervise employees, though it's unclear what specific rule the team would have violated or what the penalties would be. Two of the sources said, as I noted on Twitter, Camille, at Cam Brothers, we appear to have reached the getting Al Capone on tax evasion stage of this investigation. Should be noted that that league spokesperson Mike Bass issued a statement stating, quote, ESPN's article regarding the LA Clippers investigation, for which the NBA declined to cooperate, contains numerous and significant inaccuracies. The results in this matter will be made clear once the investigation is concluded. So, contradicting accounts, no resolution yet regardless. There's another part of this report that jumped out to me as an element of confirmation bias. I'll get to that. But Camille, your reaction when you saw this?
At first, I was like, nothing. Okay. And then to see the NBA come out within like an hour or so, it felt like, and being like, hey, actually, like there's some things that are inaccurate in that. Hey, just wait until we actually say what's going to happen coming out. And going back through the articles and looking through it, I was like, okay, ESPN, it seems to me as if they have a good inclination of how this is going to end, although they are still negotiating certain things within the outcome of how this will actually shake out. Now, the piece of it for me that stood out in the ESPN article was a line that kind of insinuated that the law firm and the Clippers were having like conversations around what the punishment might actually be, and that there have been like some spirited conversations between them and whatnot. And the question that I have, and I'm not sure if this is your confirmation bias, but if the NBA, in fact, did not find evidence of cap circumvention, as ESPN is reporting they're going to announce, then why are the Clippers and the league negotiating anything at this point?
The passage that you are referring to, and this, by the way, Camille, excellent work, because this is what jumped out at me as well. The confirmation bias per ESPN, quote, the league presented initial findings of its investigation led by the law firm Wachtell, Lipton, Rosen, and Katz to the Clippers in late July, according to multiple people familiar with the matter. In recent days, both sides have been negotiating a resolution in the investigation. The people said these talks, led by attorney David N. Kelly of the law firm O'Melveny and Myers for Ballmer and the Clippers, and NBA General Counsel Rick Buchanan, at times have been, as you said, Camille, spirited, one source said. And this passage jumped out at me, Camille, because it reflects what has been my read on this for a while. I've talked about it on a couple of episodes on Locked On Lakers and also ESPN LA 710, where I appear regularly. The league feels to me like it's not necessarily looking to let Ballmer and Kawhi off the hook altogether, because if that was the case, just announce there's nothing here during the offseason, let this blow over. We as a society have a 15-minute attention span. We'll move on to the next thing. I mean, like, really, if you were
you're not wrong.
If you're trying to bury it and just try to make it go away entirely, you do it this offseason.
It has to be.
Right. But instead, it's felt like there's been a group effort to preemptively land on a punishment that everyone can agree to. So there's no arbitration, no anything. It's just settled. And, Adam Silver has a background as a lawyer. And this feels to me like every episode of Law and Order where Jack McCoy and the defense attorney haggle out a deal before trial. You know what I mean? Like, it feels like everyone's trying to work out a plea bargaining agreement. And it feels to me like both the Players Association and Ballmer's presumably very expensive and very good lawyers feel like they have the league where they want them for whatever reason.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that, because this whole investigation and the fact that it's Steve Ballmer's team, and Ballmer is the richest owner. He is somebody who has a lot of influence in the league. He's been a champion of the league as well. It's a partnership that I'm sure that the NBA does not want to sully in any way. So that already felt like this is just, it feels a little yucky to me. And then seeing this today and all the news that came out with it, it just, that's the best word. Like, it just doesn't pass the smell test to me, where you need the hardcore evidence. I'm sure there probably was no necessarily quote unquote smoking gun as what you saw with Minnesota, 20 years ago at this point, like maybe 25 years at this point. But it feels like something should happen, which I think is where, as you were saying, where the league and the Clippers are right now of like, what can we all agree on so that at least isn't like we let you guys off scot-free. Like something has to happen. So let's figure out what that might be.
Yeah, we have to save face in this. And we know something happened. Like, again, I feel like if the league really thought nothing happened, and this may look fishy, but really it's nothing. You just let them off the hook in the offseason and let everyone forget about it and move on. This feels like they want to reflect some type of punishment with some type of wrongdoing, whether by Kawhi, whether by the Clippers, both. But again, they are pre-negotiating the punishment because they don't want to deal with, lawyers on either side, the threat of discovery, whatever. It feels like Silver is trying to avoid a fight. And if you enter a fight looking to avoid it, that is going to give your adversary in the fight a big advantage.
It is. It is. And I'll say this in closing, because Adam Silver said, like, all-star break. Hey, got to wrap this up soon. And then like last month, we heard him say, hey, I hope this is done by the end of summer. Like we wanted to be done before the season begins. We're 6 weeks out from training camps starting at this point? Like time is ticking. So to see ESPN kind of leak what the outcome might be, it does make me feel as if the ending is near. And ultimately, this has dragged on far too long, in my opinion. I'm just ready for this to be over and probably a bit upset about whatever the outcome tends to be from this, because it doesn't seem like it's going to be anything substantial for the Lakers, or for the Clippers, I mean.
No, the Lakers have a lot of mess going on, Camille, but we're not actually a part of this. Like, leave the Lakers out of this mess with Steve Ballmer and Kawhi and the Clippers. Like, the Lakers have got enough of their own bleep going on, man. It's just crazy day in LA hoops, but it was, Camille, a lot of fun to break it down with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. This is why we love the pod in the off season, like to hear Wes and the guys talking about it early, but then we get the part of like, oh, actually the NBA also said not so fast. Like I love this. Yeah.
And along those lines, thanks for making Locked On your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast, where there is no offseason. Wes, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date on contract negotiations, rumors, everything you need to be the most informed NBA fan. I am actually, for reals, IRL, an everydayer of that show. It is really good. So find Locked On NBA on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we will all see you next time.